Today, we are not just creating a VPC, we are understanding how AWS networking actually works. So, welcome to Build with Kshitiz. I hope everyone is doing fine. So, today we are going to talk about AWS networking, in particular, the VPC, its subnets, and how do we create resources within them. Most beginners jump straight into launching EC2 instances without realizing where those servers actually live. In this video, we are going to build our own AWS network from scratch and, more importantly, understand every step clearly. This is built by Kshitiz. Let's build real understanding. Before we touch AWS, let's understand what a VPC actually is. A VPC, virtual private cloud, is your own private network inside AWS. Think of it like this: AWS is a huge city, and your VPC is your private gated colony inside that city. Inside this colony, you decide what IP range to use, which resources can talk to each other, what is public and what is private. Now, inside a VPC, we create something called subnets. Subnets are smaller sections of your network. Typically, a public subnet is something which can access the internet, or I should say, all the resources within this subnet can access the internet. And a private subnet is totally opposite, means it's isolated and does not have a direct internet access. And finally, we launch EC2 instances, which are just servers inside these subnets. So the hierarchy is simple. First we create the VPC, then subnet, and then an EC2. So now let's actually build this. Let me give you all the overview of architecture. We are going to have our AWS cloud here. Within this AWS cloud, we will have a VPC. Within this VPC, we will have a subnet, and this subnet is going to have a resource in it, which is going to be Amazon EC2. This EC2 is going to connect to an internet gateway. We will discuss what that is. And then this internet gateway is going to route all this traffic through a route table to the end users, which are also available only via the internet. So let's get to the implementation stage right away. So here we are at the AWS console. Let's search from the search bar VPC. We're going to select it, and let's click on this amber colored button called create VPC. Once we do that, we'll select VPC only. We'll give it a name, say build with Kshitiz VPC. I'll keep this one as is. Now I'm gonna give it a CIDR block, which is going to be 10.0.0.0/16. No, we do not want an IPv6 tenancy, we'll leave it as is, and we should create VPC. Once that is done and the state is available, the next step we are going to go to is create the subnet. But before we jump there, I want to discuss a bit about what CIDR is. CIDR is nothing but it defines the IP range of your network. Think of it as the total address space available in your colony. Alright, with that understanding, let's move to the next step, which is going to be creating the subnets. We're going to select subnets from here. At the top right side, we'll see the create subnet button. We're going to select it. we are going to select our VPC, which is this one, and we'll give it a name called public subnet. We'll keep the rest of the things as is, but one thing that we are going to change is that we are going to enter here the CIDR, which is 10.0.1.0/24. Alright, we're going to create the subnet. We have the subnet in the available state. Perfect. Now we have the VPC and we have created a subnet within that VPC. Now, by default, this virtual network that we have created has no internet access. So, to do that, we create an internet gateway. Let's go there, select create internet gateway. I'll type in build with Kshitiz IGW, which is nothing but short form for internet gateway. I'll just select create internet gateway. Alright. Now, right now we have our internet gateway connected, but the problem is that it has the state of detached. Okay, so we are going to go to the top right, select actions, and then select the button attached to VPC. Once we do that, we are going to select this VPC, which is build with Kshitiz, attach internet gateway. Now it's in the state of attached. That's perfect. This is what connects your private network to the internet. Now the step 4 is creating route tables. This is a very important part, so be very careful here. What we are going to do is we are going to go to route table. At the top right, we are going to select create route table. I'll say build with Kshitiz RTB. We're going to select our VPC that we just created, and we're going to select create route table. Once we do that and we see that the status is active, that's perfect. Now our next step is to go to edit routes. Then we are going to go to add route. The destination is going to be 0000, which stands for internet, or I should say any IP address, and this should be the target for our internet gateway. Now we select our internet gateway, which is this one. Once we do that, we click on save changes, and here we go. Now what this step does is that it lets all the traffic going outside and it sends it to the internet gateway, which connects our private network to the internet. Alright. Now the step 5 is going to be associating the subnet with this route table, right? So we are going to select subnet associations. We are going to go under explicit subnet associations, edit subnet association. We're going to select the subnet that we created, and we're going to save association. If we go back to subnet associations again, we'll see that we have the public subnet appearing in the explicit subnet associations now. I think that's it. The only part that's left right now is to actually create a resource within this VPC. So let's do that. Now I'm gonna go to the search box again, and I'll type in EC2, which is nothing but virtual server in the cloud. I'm gonna select EC2 here. I'll go to launch instance. We'll launch without a walkthrough. I'll say this test server. We'll choose an AMI for Ubuntu. Architecture 64-bit is fine. Instance type t3.micro is perfect. We'll create a new query pair. I'll say test server key. We'll create it. Alright. Now this is the important part. In the network settings, we are going to choose edit. We are going to choose our VPC that we just created and the subnet, which is public subnet that we created. We'll auto assign a public IP to it, and we'll let SSH available from anywhere. The rest of the settings we'll leave it as is, and we're going to select launch instance. Once we do that, we're going to select this instance. We'll check its state, it's running, that's perfect. We'll go to connect, click on connect. Here we go, we are into our EC2. Now I want us to give a look at the private IP, which is 10.0.1.181. Previously, if we go back to VPC, we'll go to your VPC, select our VPC, and go to resource map for it. We'll see that our public subnet has an IP CIDR for 10.0.1.0/24. So let's go to this, and we can see that in this range of IP addresses, the first usable IP is 10.0.1.1 and the last usable IP is 10.0.1.254. And we can clearly see that 10.0.1.181 clearly falls under the range of these two CIDR blocks. So this means that our IP, private IP, is within the subnet that we have created. Perfect. So in this way, we actually create the foundation of AWS networking. Now, this is exactly how real systems are built. Companies don't just launch servers randomly, they design networks first. Public subnets for web servers, private subnets for databases, for example, and this structure gives security, control, and scalability. So let's quickly recap so that we have a better idea. VPC is your private network. Subnets divide that network. Internet gateway connects you to the internet. Route tables control traffic. EC2 runs inside the subnet. If you understood this, you have the foundation of AWS networking. And that's perfect. So this is built by Kshitiz, where we don't memorize, we understand. If this helped you, please consider subscribing.